Hello, friends. Welcome back to Page Chewing and welcome to the weekly update. It's where I talk about what I've been reading, what I'm going to read, what I didn't get to, and lots of other things that aren't related to books. So if you would like to connect with me, the best place is on our website at pagechewing.com. We currently have an article there for those of you who don't listen to Panel Chewing, the weekly comic book show. We have Jared and I listed our top 10 favorite horror comic books. So go check that out. And there's also reviews for comics, reviews for other books, lots of great stuff. So go by and check that out. So it's, I know I was gone last week, but I actually have a good excuse. I was really, really sick. I had this nasty, nasty flu. I didn't get out of bed for a few days, and I was bedridden. It was awful. But the good news is I got lots of reading done, and we got lots of comic books read. I couldn't really focus on quote unquote normal books, on novels, because of the font and the lighting and everything, but I could read comic books on my iPad digitally, and it was, comforting because it was a big screen and, easier to get through, lots of pictures. So that was nice. But yeah, I got lots of comic books read. I'll talk a little bit about those. But last week, the last update, I was talking about reading Negative Space by Yeager, and it is probably my favorite horror book. It is a book about a town where these teenagers are experimenting with drugs. They're doing teenager things, and there's a suicide epidemic in the town. And it's one of those classic stories where the parents are almost invisible. So they're not around. They're oblivious to a lot of what's going on. And some really, really awful shit happens. Some really, really awful stuff happens. Sorry, I shouldn't say. So yeah, lots of awful things happen. And the writing is probably my favorite part of the book. It is has this very descriptive but poetic feeling to it. I know people complain about, it's purple prose and it's too flowery, and to me that's all bullshit. I love
your language is offensive.
I love all that stuff. I love the flowery writing. I love the descriptions. It describes so much in so little words, but it does it beautifully. And it's three or four, 5 words in a sentence, but it'll just take you to another place. And not too many authors can do that. I mean, of course, a lot of them can, but the ones that I've read anyway, as effectively as B.R. Yeager. We did have a discussion for this one planned with. I was talking to Carl D. Albert, author of Truth of Crowns. Go check that out. It's a epic fantasy book. But we had a plan to record a discussion for it, and because I was sick, we had to postpone it. So hopefully we'll get that planned in the near future. So I really want to do that one because I was hoping to do it before Halloween, and whatever it was that I caught was just awful. I ended up getting sick on Friday night, and honestly, I didn't really I didn't know what it was. It just kind of snuck up on me, and by Friday later in the evening, I was in the fetal position, just with abdominal pain, and it was awful for days and days and days. So thankfully, we can reschedule that for another time. I really want to get other people's opinions on it because I love discussing these kind of books. There's so many things to kind of pick apart and talk about. There's some books you can do that with and some you can't. I try to take advantage of it when it is a book that we can kind of pick apart, and at the very least the writing and the descriptions and story structure. And there was a lot involved in this one, so looking forward to that at some point. Also, I am reading House of Chains. It's the 4th book in the Malazan Book of the Fallen by Stephen Erickson. Again, page burners recorded Tuesday night like we always do, but I was still sick. I was still having trouble sitting in a chair for too long, and so the crew recorded without me. I told them, please continue, don't wait for me. So they were thankfully they were able to record the episode, and the first with the prologue and the first two chapters, that episode's live. I'm really bummed because this is probably my favorite book that I had read of the five that I read the first time I tried reading the series, and I really love the kind of singular focus. It's a lots to there's a lot to. It's a big change from the first three books to the fourth book. There's a kind of a singular focus. There's more of a central character, and it's a character that you don't like very much. And I won't spoil anything, but it's a big change. It's a shifting gears. And I think it was needed in this series. It was needed to kind of change up the pace a little bit. So I'm really, really bummed I wasn't there for that because I really love, especially the first part of that book. Just those of you who have read it know, but there's some surprises in that one that I just love. I love the first few chapters of that book, especially. So I hope to make it this coming week for Page Burners. Also, one that I wanted to mention outside of the comic books was Blom. It is a manga that I had tried reading before, and it is a story. It's hard to describe because I've only read the first volume, and it's not exactly a clear plot. But basically, what it is, it's a man who's walking through this huge structure. It's giant structure, science fiction dystopian kind of book, and he runs into different people, and you get the impression he travels for long periods of time to get what he's looking for, and he runs into different people, to different robots, to different hybrids, and different types of like groups of people, and there's not too much dialogue. There's very little dialogue. A lot of it is the artwork and the structures, the buildings, the architecture. It's beautiful. And I think the first time I didn't really take my time enough to really appreciate the artwork. I wanted to get through it. And this time I really took my time. Being sick helped with that because I had to take my time reading it this time. But I really, tried to focus a lot more on like the page layouts, the artwork, the way the artwork was laid out. And I try to do that with comics in general because a lot of thought goes into a lot of these comics that we don't really think about. You just look at the page and you don't really look for too many things, but you can really break down some books and really, really appreciate the effort that goes into all these different layouts and shapes and colors and direction. And there's so much that goes into it. So I really tried to take my time, but I really, really liked it. I finished the first volume, and I'm not sure if I'll do something for that on the podcast or not. I haven't decided, but I probably will for the first volume. It's hard to describe because it is so visual and there's not a lot of dialogue, but I'll try and put my little brain to work and see what we can come up with. Also, speaking of manga, I did, like I mentioned last update, I did finish Berserk volume 42, and after so much wait, it was kind of a bummer. I'm not really sure what my takeaway from it is. I want to keep the momentum going because I was reposting all the old Berserk discussions because they were on another podcast, on the comic book podcast, and I combined everything into one instead of having two literary podcasts. So I was posting those, and we were caught up, and so I'll do something for that 42nd volume at some point, hopefully soon. I know I mentioned I'm not so I usually like to read, like Malazan or whatever group we're reading with. I like to read that book and then add another book. And I haven't decided yet what the other book will be. I wanted to finish the discussion for Negative Space first. There's a few books that are, on my radar, but I haven't quite decided yet which one will be next. So I know I talked about Outer Dark by Cormac McCarthy. There's a few other ones that I've been wanting to try. So I haven't decided yet, but I hope to, once we schedule the Negative Space discussion, I can start thinking about what's next and kind of choose another book to read. I'm trying to be pickier on what I choose to read and not just read things because it's kind of being talked about or whatever, or looks good. There's too many times I've been burned by a good cover, and I go into a book and thinking the cover is this really eye catching cover, and the book itself is just not all that great. So I'm trying to be more careful, trying to be pickier with what I read, and be more deliberate with choosing things that I know I will like instead of things that I hope I'll like, if that makes sense. I just don't have time to read like I did years ago. So we'll see what's coming up next. Of course, I'm always open to suggestions. So other comics that I read this week I wanted to talk about. The pick of the week was As Good as Dead. It's by Maria and David Lapham. They are a team that did the book called Stray Bullets, and it's a crime noir story. If you haven't read Stray Bullets, it's a fantastic character-based crime noir story, and they team back together to do As Good as Dead. It's a story about a town. It starts off, and this isn't a spoiler because it's right in the first couple pages. A man sets himself on fire, and you come to so there's a cop who's trying to solve it. There's all these other characters in the book. There's all this turmoil in the town and the different conflicts in the town, the deep, long running family conflicts, and there's personal conflicts, and there's personal, there's feelings between the different characters, and everyone has their own motivations and their own things that, their own kind of ideas on where to go next. And they all oftentimes clash. They all work against each other, but they don't always know that they're working against each other. They're all doing their own thing, but working against each other, but they don't unknowingly. So all the characters are very defined. The town is very defined. There is a ticking time clock that the crime must be solved before something happens. I won't spoil what that is, but there is a ticking time clock. All these characters are working against each other, not always knowingly so. And there's a town, there's a bridge, there's political intrigue, there's all these things going on, so many different strings being pulled. And the Laphams do a fantastic, just do an amazing job with more characters. It's almost that they shine when they have more characters to deal with. And all the characters don't get a ton of time, but they're all very defined, and they're all very established, and you get to know them. You feel like you know that they're people, and they're all imperfect. They're all screwed up. They're all selfish and assholes. Most of them are. And it's great. So As Good as Dead, if you're looking for a non-superhero comic, check that out. Also, if you haven't read The Killer, they made the Netflix movie with Michael Fassbender. It's a book about a killer. It's about an assassin. He looks kind of like a dork. So if you see him in the book, he's not very intimidating physically. He doesn't look like, Sylvester Stallone or, like this action movie star. He just looks like a normal guy. He looks like he would be working in an IT office somewhere doing, developing whatever. And he's a hired killer, and he hunts the people that he's paid to kill. It's very methodical. It's very deliberate. It's not full of action. He avoids gunfights. He avoids those kind of things. He's very patient. And the book explores humanity. It explores, the role of humanity, the role of violence in history, the role of, what is our role? Do we intervene when something bad is happening, or do we mind our own business? Will it make a difference at the end of the day if we intervene? Some of it sounds very cold-hearted, but it's actually very thought-provoking. This book is called Affairs of the State, and it's being printed right now, but you can get the original omnibus for The Killer. It's pretty cheap. I think it's $20 last I checked. Ton of it. It's just great book. If you're looking for non-superhero stuff, I think it's originally written in French, but it's translated obviously. Last book I want to talk about, excuse me, was this book called No Man's Land. This book is about the time period is during the Cold War, and a woman is found murdered on an ice bridge between Alaska and at the time the USSR, the Soviet Union. And it's this kind of the space in between the borders. So there's really not one country or another has jurisdiction over it. They both go there trying to figure out what's going on. They both, obviously, hopefully want to avoid like an international conflict where one country or another hits the button and obliterates the other country. So there's all this tension being built, and both countries sends in an agent to kind of be their go-to, like their detective to figure out what's going on. And both detectives don't know if they can trust each other, and they both have to work together, but they don't know how much they can trust each other, or if one of them is trying to antagonize the other one. There's all this push and pull and trying to feel each other out and understand whose motivations, what motivations does this person have? Do they want to solve the crime? Are they trying to make the situation worse, to start an international conflict? There's so many. It's great. It's like True Detective during the Cold War, but instead of two detectives, they're one from the U.S. and one from Russia during the Cold War. So it is so far a really, really great book. And also, again, it explores the role of war, the role of conflict throughout history. It's a necessary evil to overthrow governments. It's a necessary evil to make make change happen. All these different things, and all these different themes are being explored at the same time as this murder trying to be solved. So good stuff. I know I talk a lot about comics, but there's really, really great comics out there if you're looking for something different to read and something quicker than what we normally do. Again, last time I had an update, I hadn't finalized the schedule for CS Friedman, author CS Friedman. I did that with Michael R. Fletcher. He was, we were talking about influences, and he had mentioned CS Friedman a long time ago being a huge influence for him with his Beyond Redemption, with his Manifest Illusions series, which is Beyond Redemption is the first book. So we had tried to get an interview scheduled a long time ago. We were finally able to make it happen. And it was a really great conversation. CS Friedman has so many years and decades of experience in publishing. So to get her perspective on publishing and how things have changed and how trends have changed and how different things are expected now and stories and characters and all these, it was a very candid conversation. I appreciate that. And it was, really good time. So go check that out if you haven't already. Again, Page Burners will record Tuesday night. We'll have that next episode out. I believe it's chapters 3 and 4. Also, I did for film showing, we did the next movie in the Oscars project is Chariots of Fire. It's a 1981 Best Picture winner, and it is a different kind of movie. It's about runners, and yeah, it's different. I wasn't a huge fan, if you can't tell, but this one, it's not my favorite Best Picture winner. It'll probably be in my bottom 5 that we've read, so that we've watched so far. So yeah, but we'll have that one out. I believe the next episode to post will be Ordinary People, the 1980 Best Picture winner. That one was pretty good, but Chariots of Fire, not my favorite. Also, I wanted to talk a little bit about Weapons, the movie Weapons. It's the same director who did Barbarian. And I'm not sure how to feel about this one. I'm conflicted. Of course, I'm not going to spoil anything, but there are lots of surprises. Not what you would expect to happen. Very off the wall things happen. If you've watched Barbarian, you probably know to expect that. Very off the wall things will happen. And yeah, I'm not sure how to feel about this one. On one hand, I like just kind of doing off the wall stuff and just going for it. But on the other hand, it's like, does it all really work? I mean, kind of when you really step back and look at it, does it kind of like, well, what? So I'm conflicted on this one. If you're, let me know what you think about Weapons. If you have strong opinion on it. Also, I'm going to start posting the Gideon Falls discussion episodes. These are the episodes Chris and I recorded a long time ago. That was on the other podcast. So I'll start posting those here in the next week or so. So keep an eyes out for that, or ears out for that. And yeah, I had planned to have a kind of a topic on the update before Halloween about supernatural experiences, and kind of if someone's had a supernatural experience, what it was, what did you experience? So I feel like almost everyone has something weird that's happened to them, or at least if they're not a believer and all that kind of stuff, they at least have something strange that's happened. Like, yeah, that kind of was a weird thing. I feel like everyone does. So I was going to share one of my stories. I think I've told this story before, but it's one of those stranger encounters I've had with, well, they're all strange, but one of the, I guess it makes one of the better stories anyway, is, coming out of high school. I was graduating high school and I was dating this girl, and I just met we just met right before I started, I was getting ready for graduation. We started dating. It was nothing serious. And when I first met her, I really wanted her parents to like me because, obviously I was taking their daughter out. And come to find out that her dad knew my dad, and they did not get along when they were younger. So I automatically was against, I had the odds stacked against me because her dad was not fond of my dad for whatever reason, some high school drama, whatever, something ridiculous. So I was trying to really, make a good impression. And so I knew that her dad wasn't a big fan of mine right away. So I wanted to kind of win him over. And, when I would take her out places, they'd always say, "Oh, be back, be sure to be back by this time." And it's like, "Oh yeah, we'll be back." So I was always sure to come back a little bit early. And every time that I would bring her home, I would, drive up to the house, and there would be someone in the window looking. And it was, there was a person in the window and behind a curtain that was looking out, like a figure was there. And I always thought, oh, like her dad's waiting for me, making sure that I'm back on time. I was like, oh, your dad's waiting for us, and that kind of thing. So this went on for months. We didn't date that long, but this went on for months where, I would notice that someone was always waiting when I got back to make sure that we were back on time, is what I thought. So some time passes, and, we get friendly with her parents. And the funny thing is, her parents probably liked me more than she did at the end of it. But that's a story for another day. So anyway, months pass, and we're sitting around one day in their house, and, we're kind of joking around. And I told everybody, like, I thought you didn't like me when you first met me, because when I came home, when I would bring, her home, like everyone, like you'd be waiting for me in the window. So I was always really nervous that, I was always sure to be back on time. And I thought you completely, hated my guts. And their whole family was sitting around. Where I was in their house, and they all looked at each other, and they all started laughing. And I thought, what's so funny? And her mom was like, that wasn't him. That's the ghost. That's our ghost. I was like, what do you mean that's the ghost? And they said, there is a ghost that lives with them, that's lived with them for a long time. And it's a friendly ghost. He looks out for them. And they said, but don't worry, the ghost likes you. I thought, well, how do you know that? And they said, well, because people he doesn't like, he'll turn their pictures down, face down. And he didn't turn your picture down. I guess there was a picture of me somewhere in the house at the time, and the ghost didn't turn my picture face down. So they were kind of like, well, don't worry about it. Like, he likes you. So that was just the ghost looking out, looking out. Don't worry about it though. Like, he likes you. You're safe. He looks out for us. He's always been with us. And so this whole time that I thought her dad was waiting at the window, turns out to be apparently this ghost. And it was like a normal thing after that. They talked about this ghost all the time. They would hear him, like we would, you hear weird noises, and they would know it was him. It was just a normal thing they lived with. Like, there's this ghost, and he does these certain things. And so, yeah, all that time I was worried about it, there was a random ghost waiting for me in the fucking window.
Your language is offensive.
But anyway, yeah, so creeped me out. Gave me the chills at the time. It's funny now, but at the time it was a little creepy. So, but yeah, that's my ghost story. So, if you'd like to share yours, share it on the forum, or of course in the comments, or in the link below where you can send a message directly to me. of course, keep your eyes and ears peeled over on the website for any upcoming podcasts or articles. There's reviews being posted there all the time. Just go by and check that out. And I hope all of you have had a great week, or having a great week, having a great weekend. Don't forget about the time change. By the time you listen to this, the time change would have already happened. I really hate the time change. Well, I like falling back. I don't like going forward and losing an hour. But anyway, hope everyone's doing well. And don't forget to turn your clocks back. And I hope having a great week. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. Also, I am now an Amazon affiliate. So I do it to help out with website costs. So if you are shopping on Amazon, there's a link below. Just click it. Go and do all your Amazon shopping. It's at no cost to you. But when you finish your shopping, Amazon will toss a few pennies my way for directing you to the website. Like I said, it's no cost to you. It's just your normal Amazon habitual unhealthy shopping. And they send a few pennies my way. So appreciate it. I'm not calling anyone out. I do the same shit. So it's not just you. Trust me. It's not just you. There's Amazon packages at my door almost every day too. So I'm not calling anyone out. But anyway, hope everyone has a fantastic week, fantastic weekend, and we will talk to everyone very soon.